How do I become more aware of the self-love needs of my emotional body? What are self-love practices for the emotional body? And how do I provide self-love for the emotional body?
Welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
And here we are in person together again. Definitely let us know down in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube if you enjoyed this format of our content, because we like it. We definitely get the vibes and the energy a little bit more.
It's nice to share in the space.
It is nice to share in the space. And of course, before I forget, if you are watching this here on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification bells, please. It helps us grow. For those of you listening on audio only, leave a review. That also helps us grow. So thanks. Enough of that.
So today we are continuing in our self-love series.
Yeah.
We've already talked about the physical body and the mental body, and today we will be addressing the emotional body.
Ooh. Yeah, the emotional body is, in the standard text description of what the emotional body is, the nervous system, hormones, touch, water, and water release. There's a little bit of, thought process that goes there.
Mm-hmm.
I had to dive a little deeper into understanding what does that mean when you add water into emotions?
Yeah, we actually had to think about that one.
Yeah.
The hormone one was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So when we are under a lot of stress, we have certain hormones that continue to run rampant and cause inflammation in our body. And then when we're in a happy state, when we are doing something we enjoy or love or are expressing laughter, we have different hormones that are produced and travel throughout the body. So the different hormones, they are impacted by our emotions and how we feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was thinking about the water part, I was thinking about Dr. Emoto's experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I asked you earlier, I was like, our body is made up of how much percent water again?
70%.
70%. And of course, I laugh a little bit because I have such a hard time drinking the right amount of water for myself. I was like, of course, I don't remember the percentage.
If you're thirsty, then you are dehydrated.
And so I was like, okay, the experiment with that is that your thoughts and what you say affect water. And if our body's made up of 70% of water, then it is affecting us. Mm-hmm. So your emotions do assist your thoughts, right? And if your thoughts are becoming a bit more negative, then you're negatively impacting your physical being. Mm-hmm. So, wow, water has a correlation into the emotion. So cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think it mentioned bloating and stuff like that too. And I was like, that's kind of wild. I hadn't thought of that before. So the emotional body, you said also the nerves and touch. And I was like, touch, that's a physical body thing. But touch can trigger certain emotions.
Yeah.
So if you're, having an unsafe touch, you feel that tension and you want to back away, you want, to defend yourself. And if it's a loving touch, you are open to it and it lifts you up and you feel that there's this exchange. And as I've mentioned in the last 2 episodes, all of these different aspects of self, they all interact, they all overlap. So I can understand why touch can lead to feeling.
And I believe that within the definition, it says that the emotional body is a bridge between the physical and the mental.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Here we are.
Yeah. So what's our first question again?
Our first question was, how do I become more aware of the self-love needs of my emotional body?
So I think, first of all, we need to acknowledge that a lot of people in our society have grown up not knowing how they feel, how to express their feelings. And one of these important things of becoming aware is being able to name it. Yeah. So when I've run into this before,
right?
When you've asked somebody after a situation, how are you feeling? And they're like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, what is your body feeling? Well, I'm feeling really tense. Okay. So is that a positive thing? Is that a negative thing? I'm feeling resistant. Okay, so we're needing to defend ourselves and protect ourselves. So we're feeling at risk.
Yeah.
We're worried, we're concerned, we feel unsafe. So when we pay attention to how our body's responding to things, we are able to use that to understand a little bit better about what our emotions are about different things.
Absolutely. And we have this like emotional states that can really do this like triggering factor for you, right? And when you're triggered by something, you have this tendency to like tense up. And when you're doing that tense up, this is why we talk about, drop the tongue from the roof of your mouth and take the deep breaths, because you're allowing yourself, going back to the physical and how this is all connected, you're allowing yourself to just kind of relax a little bit, releasing a little bit of that pressure.
Yeah, you have to make a conscious
Mm-hmm.
choice to adjust how
Yep.
your body is responding.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like the breathing aspect, when we do a lot of chest breathing, so upper chest, that's pretty unconscious. That's where we breathe most of our day, but that's actually our fight or flight response
Right.
is our upper chest. So if we're trying to encourage our body to get into that rest and digest stage, it's focusing on the breath and bringing it down into the belly. And when we bring it into the belly and we're fully extending those lower lobes of the lungs, then we're going to help relax the body by providing more oxygen within the circulation of the body.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really enjoy the thought process around, and there's scientific studies about this, around how your emotional state impacts your energetic field and how that can expand even further outside of just the physical body. And we have, like, just during some channeling sessions and things like that, I've seen some imagery around how your energetic field can impact those around you. So just being aware, first of all, because we're still on the first question here, but like just being aware that you do have this aura or energetic field that surrounds you, and that your emotional state and your mental state and your physical body can affect that surrounding you as well.
For example, when you walk in a room and you feel tension between two
Mm-hmm.
people, you don't know that they've just discussed their relationship on the rocks or whatever. You don't know what's going on. You just know that there's this tense energy when you walked into the room. And so that is an auric field that you are entering into.
Yeah. Ooh. So this touches on your intuition,
Mhm.
right? So your energetic fields, or the energetic fields of others, you can tap into that, and we do it all day, every day. And sometimes we're not even aware that this has a lot to do with your intuition and how that is impacting your subconscious. You just pick these things up. It's like that sense, it's
Mhm.
this extra sense that we have, or sensory that we have. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought of that one until now.
And I was just trying to remember what I wrote down as a little note for the last episode. Intuition is received via the spirit, but expressed via the emotion and felt in the body.
Ooh.
So, how do we become more aware? It's starting with self observation, connecting with the body. Like I said, acknowledging what that body is feeling, what it's carrying with it. And then we start to name that emotion. So, we actually put a name to it so that we can start to work through it.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's part of the awareness of what's going on with the emotional body. We can use the physical body to guide us to try and understand it if we haven't developed that relationship yet with the emotional body.
I was thinking about what you were just saying there, like giving it a name, right? So, like, when you give something a name, you become aware of it. And so, like, even us, right? Us humans, all of us, we have a name. So, when you first introduce yourself to somebody and you're like, "Hi, I'm Shyra," or you're like, "Hi, I'm Carrie," and now I have a full awareness of you. You've been brought into that. And then
That's a really great example.
yeah. And I was just thinking to myself too, is like some of the studies that have been done, how things can change when you become aware of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, like the what is it, the split
The split
proton?
theory.
Yeah,
Okay, I had to look that
Yeah,
up.
I can't recall exactly what it's called, but basically the scientists were shooting electrons through, like, there's like a piece of paper or something like that, and there's a hole in it. And so they shoot it through the holes, and when nobody's observing it, it just like scatters. And when it was being observed, it would actually
Change its behavior.
And it's so interesting. Sorry, I don't know. I don't recall the exact specifics, but it's really fascinating, this idea that just because we're observing something, it changes.
Right.
It's like the experiment, Schrodinger's cat. The cat's in the box, but I'm not aware, like I can't see it. So how do I know that it's in there unless I actually see it?
Interesting. You ever have those like thought processes where you're like, oh, I'm feeling really irritable today. And then you're like, why am I feeling irritable today? And then you identify it and you're like, oh, I know why I'm feeling irritable today, because this, and this affected me. And now you've named it by doing that. And then you kind of relax a little bit from it, even if you're like perpetuating it a bit more than normal. And you're like, oh, that's exactly why I'm feeling that way today. You know what? I'm going to stay angry. But now you're conscious of it. Now you're aware of it. And now you can choose. You have the choice. Am I going to stay in this moment? Or do I let it go? Or do I find a resolve? Do I process it by giving it a good cry or showing it some love, whatever? Yeah, that's fascinating. Awareness is key.
Yes, it starts with observation.
Absolutely. So what are self-love practices for the emotional body?
Well, I think, first of all, it's getting to know your emotional body. Unless you're developing a relationship with it, you're trying to disconnect from it.
Right.
And when we are distant from a part of ourselves, is that showing ourselves love? Not really. One of the self-love practices, it doesn't always feel good to do this, but when it comes to the emotional body and the things that we carry with us, it takes what's called shadow work. So working through traumas or pains or hurtful situations that we carry with us. And unfortunately, even though we try to ignore them and not give them space, unless we actually give it the space to work through it, we're just going to carry it with us.
Yeah.
And like we noted in the physical body episode, traumas stay in the body. And if you don't express them and work through them, they will be expressed one way or the other.
This is very true. They creep up on you.
It's not comfortable.
No. So I've seen like in some of my like self-love practices, and I kind of don't even want to say it like this, but I'll give myself permission to feel, where and judgment comes in on this particular exercise, right? Where you're letting go of the judgment of yourself and you're letting go of trying to conceptualize or perceive the judgment of others. If like you're having a emotional meltdown, which I've had in front of my husband, I've had to say, you know what, I'm going to have an emotional meltdown right now, and I'm going to be okay with it, because this is just me needing to release all the things that are happening within myself and me needing to express what's going on and being okay within myself, that it's okay for me to do this because I'm human and I'm carrying emotions. If you're not okay with this, you might want to exit the room if you can't handle this moment, you know? And so this is you allowing yourself to just be you and process those emotions that you're having.
I think overall, outside of the shadow work, or even inside the shadow work, the biggest self-love practice for the emotional body is allowing yourself to feel.
Yeah.
And being there for yourself.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So when our emotional body is balanced, we have more capacity for empathy and compassion. We tend to lack judgment, which is a good thing to lack. And we have more patience. Yeah. So when that's out of balance, we don't have space for that.
Yeah.
We are judgmental. And so that can be a key guiding piece of data and, highlighting like, hey, And our days are not made for feeling. Our days are made for producing.
Mm.
And I know that there are times when
Wow.
I have to, like, I recognize that I'm feeling a certain way. I don't have the time and space to address this in this moment. But acknowledging, like, okay, emotional body, you are important. You deserve time and space, and I will create that for you later today. And maybe I'll go sit in my office with a tissue and just cry.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll call my best friend and, we'll vent.
Yeah.
But the thing is when we vent, it's not just to complain.
Right.
We're actually giving support and we're giving advice.
Absolutely.
On that note, we also ask, are you in a place where you just want to vent, or do you want advice?
Absolutely. That question is key.
It's so important.
It's so important.
We do this all the time.
We do. And that check-in as well, like, hey, I'm not in a great place today.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's been times where both of us are not in a great place at the same time. And so we're like, okay, either we're going to just say, maybe today's not the best day to talk because I'm not in a space to be helpful right now. Or we say, okay, we're going to work it out together. I'm going to give you space and you're going to give me space. And we're just going to share these experiences. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's a great practice to have with somebody that, is a friend or a family member or, any loved one you have that you trust, that you feel that you can be yourself around.
And there's a difference between, like, venting and ruminating. Are you venting to just complain? Are you going to continue to just complain about the same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
Or are you venting to release what's pent up inside of you so that you can create space to move forward?
Right.
To, transmute.
Right. And, a lot of times when I know that I'm in this, what I'm going to call it, the emotional wheel of fortune.
Hamster wheel.
The hamster wheel. I'm thinking of the game show where you pull that thing down and
Price
you're just like, yeah, the price is right. And it's like a little ticker. Where am I going to land? And always the goal is to land on, letting go because you've resolved it within. Mm-hmm. And just giving yourself a little bit of space to do this is so important. Because if you don't, then what most people tend to do is like, oh, in order to let go, then I'm just going to shove it. I'm going to shove it all the way down on the inside. Mm-hmm. And again, like what Carrie had said earlier, those things have a way of resurfacing and bubbling right back up to the top and becoming part of your awareness and in your reality so you can experience it.
And some of that reoccurrence is also because we're needing to learn lessons and we haven't learned them yet.
That's right. Stay tuned for the spiritual part.
The universe will keep presenting opportunities for you to learn the lesson that you need to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it will. And other practices for self-love for the emotional body, because the emotional body is such a gateway between the mind and the physical, doing certain physical activities to assist you emotionally, right?
I just thought about that TikTok that I made, the one where you're like, or I'm throwing the energy down.
If y'all haven't seen this, please go to Carrie's TikTok and
at Karista Rose. At the very least, it'll make you laugh.
Right. She sent it to me before she posted it, and I was like, this is great. Post that.
No shame.
No shame. That's that release of judgment, right? It's like, that's a great practice. Social media will help with that one. You're funny. And then, of course, staying hydrated. Don't say dehydrated. Stay hydrated.
Oh, you know what? That just rang like, okay, so when you are dehydrated, your body isn't functioning as well. Mm-hmm. And it gets fatigued. And when you get fatigued, your emotional regulation or ability to emotionally regulate reduces drastically.
Yeah. You ever find yourself having an absolute fit because you're so tired? Mm-hmm. Because you're not getting enough sleep and you're not taking care of self and you're not staying hydrated? I know I've done it. I'm just raising my hand right here. I know I've done it, and I've done it recently where just it's a snap, you have this like break, you feel like you're breaking down because you're not building yourself up enough. So take care of you.
Mm-hmm. So, how do I provide self love for the emotional body?
Mm,
So, I mentioned one of the practices already is shadow work. But how do we do that?
right.
Shadow work is connecting with the deeper parts of yourself that you may have repressed or suppressed and allowing yourself to actually feel through those moments. This is something that sometimes we need support with,
Yeah.
frequently,
Yep.
sometimes.
Sometimes daily.
Using, if you have a friend that you feel comfortable with, this is really important that you have somebody that you trust,
Yeah.
that you can be vulnerable and authentic with.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to be that with yourself too. And so if you don't feel like you can trust yourself to get through the emotion, because that's an important aspect of this. A lot of people are really scared to feel because they don't know if they'll get to the other side of that feeling. So having that support system in place, so whether that's a friend, a family member, a therapist, having that support system in place to help you to work through these things. Now, when it's like an old trauma, because what did you say? Everyone at some level has emotional damage.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We just can't get away from it. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Whether it was intentional or not, it happens. When we start to look back at those things, it's not about going back into that moment and reliving the experience. It's about observing and even providing that younger self that had to experience that with the emotional support that you needed at that time. You providing it to your younger self as you're working through that.
And this is where shifting your perspective is very, very important, because in order for you to revisit that what caused the emotional state that you might be experiencing, or revisiting any type of a trauma, looking at it from a different perspective, zooming out from the entire scenario is very important in order to assist you to not try and relive that experience again.
Mm-hmm.
I throw that in there.
I mentioned that on another episode about being the parent to yourself
Mm-hmm.
that you needed in that moment that you didn't have access to at that time. So doing that now. And when we start accepting or acknowledging and accepting those emotions, that's when it starts to ease up a little bit and we can start to move forward. It becomes a little less intense when we are able to name it and understand why that emotional pattern was triggered into being.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we're providing love to ourselves in those moments that we needed when we didn't feel like we had access to it.
Yeah. And some of the self-love care is acknowledging self,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just put your hand on your heart. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to hit the microphone, but put your hand on your heart to bring awareness to that space, that central love point of all of everything we are, and take a deep breath in and say, I am, and then state your name, right? Bringing awareness to you because you're providing this self-love. And do what she said, right? Like, this is a great practice. Like, give yourself a little parenting.
And outside of the shadow work, because sometimes we need the now moment, like addressing the now moment of hurt,
Mm-hmm.
right? So giving yourself permission to feel through it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to, set a time limit. Some people, they need that assistance to pull themselves out.
So don't stay stuck in the moment.
Right.
Right.
And I keep saying this over and over again because this is just something that really works well for me, but journaling what you felt, what that was like, experiencing that as that younger you or earlier today, which is also the younger you. Time. And write down how you felt in your body, what you sensed
right.
within yourself. If it happened today, If you're feeling through something that happened today, is there a pattern? Is there something that's connected to that happened previously and you're reacting out of a habit? When we start to look deeper, that's when we can start to find the root. And that's when we can start to untangle ourselves from those roots.
Oh man, the self-love practices, everything that we've been about since the beginning of this podcast, right? Was acknowledging that we needed self-love for ourselves in the first place, right? And so again, like having these moments where you can express you, play with your creativity. Creativity does allow you to express your emotions as well. I know a lot of artists that do this, a lot of famous artists that do this. And I was just thinking about this too. Whenever somebody goes and they looks at a piece of art, and that piece of art to them says something different than to the person standing next to them, and right then and there, that is the entire point of the creativity within that artist in the first place, is to draw an emotion from you.
It's just showing you a really good example of how two people can see or perceive something completely different.
Absolutely. Ooh, we can go deep there.
and that's where a lot of disconnect and miscommunication occurs too.
Yep.
One really important part or reason, purpose behind doing this self-love work, especially with the emotional body, is to create that trusting relationship between you and yourself.
I had to clap.
If you were taught at a young age that certain emotions were wrong, I'm not saying that was a purposeful or an intentional distortion that was taught to you, but that does happen.
Yeah.
And we learn in our younger years to stop trusting our emotions.
Right.
We are taught to only trust what we see and can feel tangibly. What is it?
Somebody outside of you.
What did I think of earlier? I'll believe it when I see it. That statement.
That little guy. Yeah.
So there's a level of faith that you are instilling in yourself. So this practice of parenting to yourself through the shadow work, you are building that trusting relationship, letting yourself learn that you will be there for yourself and you're not going to dismiss your emotions. You're not going to minimize them. You're not going to judge them. And you're not going to make yourself feel bad for feeling.
Isn't that wild? I'm as you're saying this, I'm thinking of times where I've heard stories, because I'm going to say that my parents are pretty great at this, so allowing me to feel that. But whenever you were a kid and people were like, "Oh no, don't cry," even in the sweetest of ways.
This is literally,
don't cry.
This is literally the statement that I was going to say.
Yeah, don't cry.
Yeah, don't cry. What is that saying?
Yeah. I remember watching a movie, and in there she was like, "You lock that up, hold it in like a winner."
So does that mean losers cry?
Right.
That if you're crying, you're a loser? That's bullshit.
Beep. So that is one thing that bugs me to the point of no return, because we are human beings and we have emotions. And with those emotions can come a physical reaction of tears.
And we shouldn't just limit ourselves to two emotions, happy and sad.
Right.
There's such a great depth between that.
And I think it's kind of cool that we are in-depth beings like this, right? Allow yourself to go through that. Mm-hmm. Be okay with that. This roller coaster is what I'm doing with my hands right now, but because we're on this wave here, we're here to experience that. Again, stay tuned for the spiritual part.
So when we are practicing building a trusting relationship between ourselves and our emotional body, or even the other bodies, we are teaching ourselves that we are safe. Just a little side note here, this is also really important for your partnerships.
Absolutely it
is you need to be able to trust your partner with your emotions, because that's you in a vulnerable state, and you want to be able to be vulnerable with your most trusted person, with your partner.
Absolutely.
I just hope that you have that.
Yep. And, I think that when you're in that partnership, having clear communication of who you are, which means you need to also be okay with who you are and understand who you are, it is a very important step, because the more you get to know yourself, the more you have love for yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more accepting of yourself, the more easier it is to communicate with somebody about who you are.
And just make sure that you have the understanding is that you will constantly change, so will your partner. And so this is a constant effort. You will forever be doing shadow work.
Yep.
You will forever be creating or reaffirming that trusting relationship.
Yep.
With yourself or with other people.
Yeah, it's definitely not one of those like, oh, today I'm Shyra and I'm like this and I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I still am figuring out who I am, because I've changed a lot in the last 10 years.
Absolutely. We all have.
And we get really distracted with the day-to-day things that sometimes we forget to remember who you are. Lion King.
Right? And I bet the last 2.5, I think almost 3 years now, has really required a lot of you and a lot of us to sit, sometimes a lot more in silence than we were used to, or even sometimes more in chaos than we were used to. But there was a massive amount of acknowledgement of what you want, who you want to be,
how you want to live,
right? And with that probably drew up quite a bit of emotions.
Mm-hmm. And one final note, if you deny your emotions, that is not getting rid of them.
Nope.
You're just stuffing them deeper down into that shadow.
Absolutely, it does.
All righty.
Fantastic conversation. Oh, what time is it?
It's collective card reading time.
Yes. All right. I'm going to bring this onto the screen. It always takes me a second to figure out how to switch it. So today's cards, we haven't seen them yet. She did shuffle right before the beginning of this episode while I was playing around with all this technology. So I haven't seen what the cards are. And you haven't seen what the cards are, have you?
Only one, when we were trying to figure out the setup.
No, there's that. And tell us, comment down below, how do you like this setup, by the way? We recently added a camera so we can do this.
So today, the deck that we're using are the Energy Oracle Cards deck and guidebook by Sandra Ann Taylor.
Oh,
this is one of my favorites, and I just really feel connected with this deck, and I enjoy it. This was one of my first non-tarot decks. Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of the non-tarot decks, the oracle decks, or like the what are the
fairies? They're all oracle decks.
Okay.
I think. Alrighty. So, first card of the day, we have the first chakra and Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's a big guide of mine. He comes through quite a bit, actually, for me. Wow. Strong presence. Also helps me tons with protective energy and protecting my own energy.
You want to describe the card?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me describe this beautiful card. So first, it's got a golden banner at the top, and it says the number 35. This beautiful masculine being, shirtless with lots of abs.
He does have an 8-pack.
And he's holding his sword to his chest. His wings are expanded behind him. They are a golden light. And he also has an aura or a halo around the back of his head. And it's also golden. I think I'm going to get a little close to this camera here, but I think he's got a bit of, he's got that golden light around the top of his head. And he is holding, it looks like he's focusing what arm is that? Left or right?
That's right.
The right arm down towards the root chakra. And it's illuminating this red orb of light.
In front of his groin.
Yep.
Which is where the root chakra lies.
Right.
And the root chakra is all about foundation, safety.
Grounding. Yeah. I work a lot in the space of when I'm drawing in protection for myself. Like if I know I'm going to be in like a public space where I'm going to be around a lot of people, and I don't want to absorb anyone else's energies, or even just when I'm doing channeling work or contacting my spirit guides or reaching out to them to communicate, at least I draw in or think of this bubble of protection, and it is usually a golden light. So I do connect with this very, very much.
When we strengthen the root chakra, we are strengthening our foundation. And when we have a strong foundation, we have greater ability to withstand challenges. When we feel safe and secure.
This actually takes us to the self, right? The relationship with self, feeling safe within your own thoughts, feeling safe with expressing your own emotions and being you, releasing the judgment of yourself.
And that's really what this card is speaking to me right now, is that focusing on that general root chakra area and connecting with that shadow that we stuff deep down and allowing those things to bubble up, and we take a look at them and we care for them. When we care for those things that are unsightly, they grow and they bloom and they change and they shift and they manifest into something more beautiful. So it just makes me think of when we keep pushing something into the dark, it remains unseen. But when we take it out into the light, that's when we can do the work.
Absolutely.
And that's when we can give it back to the universe and let go. So I just think, again, really building that foundation with yourself, creating that intimacy with yourself and your emotions, and building that trusting relationship.
Makes so much sense. Thanks, Archangel Michael. Brother in arms.
All right. Second card. 22, yin and yang.
Oh, me and the twos lately. Okay, so on the card, yep, it's the golden banner at the top of the card says 22. And it has the yin yang sign. It almost looks like it's a planet. And I can see a little bit of the darker blue clouds to the left. And then you've got the golden trees. Are these trees? Almost looks like those are trees, but it's like clouds and trees within the clouds.
So I'm getting like fire and ice, or, earth and water, or earth and air, like different, like opposing elements kind of thing. So on the left side, it's more of the blues, and same with the yin is more of this whitish blue, and it kind of looks like the shadow of a moon. In that side of things. Sun and moon, light and dark, male and female, polarity. And then on the right hand side, it's a little bit more like a rustic yellow orange, and that's why I think you were thinking fire / trees, because there's like a hint of green in there too. So I think it's more of balancing the masculine and the feminine energies. So masculine is more mental, logic, action, and feminine energies are more emotional and intuitive. And it's not saying that either one is bad or better than the other, and that feminine energies are only in women either. Feminine and masculine energies are balanced in everybody, or out of balance, but they're present in everybody. And so when we lean more into the masculine, because this is a more masculine society, it does ask us to be more logical. It asks us to be scientific and gather empirical data, and that's how we make logical decisions. We don't listen to the emotion. We don't listen to intuition. Because that's not provable. And when we lean more towards one side, we become out of balance. I think that's the reminder here, is allow yourself to feel, but don't let it necessarily become out of balance either.
Absolutely. With our topic for today's episode, this plays a really big factor. Balancing plays a really big factor. In order to create a balanced emotional body, you do need to balance between the physical and the mental.
And the emotional and the spiritual.
Again, stay tuned. The number 22, and I'm just kind of reading, paraphrasing, honestly, from Joanne Scribes. If you haven't checked that out, Sacred Scribes Angel Numbers.blogspot.com.
We'll link it.
We'll link it down below. It's a great guide for when you are getting synchronistic numbers, and that's usually a sign of your guides or your angels trying to speak with you or communicate with you. And it's a quick little reference to see what is it you're trying to say to me at this time. So 22, it is duality, balance, partnership, relationships, sensitivity, and selflessness. And it carries the energies and attributes of diplomacy, intuition, and emotion. Balance and harmony, adaptability, personal power.
I'm not even reading from the guidebook either. I feel like them placing this card on the number 22 is really intentional.
Absolutely. Because I actually needed to hear all this today too.
Oh, there's something else I had. Something that I said to you yesterday. So for me, when I've thought of like balance, it's like this snapshot image of a scale. But in reality, we are constantly ebbing and flowing and having to adjust that balanced scale.
Absolutely.
So it's not this, aha, I have it balanced and it's forever going to be balanced.
No, it doesn't work like that.
This is a constant everyday thing where, we have to consciously make an effort to bring in these different aspects of ourselves to balance. So one of the emotional or intuitive sides of the brain, one of the characteristics is creativity.
Yeah.
So get out your paintbrush, get out a science fiction book, get out, I don't know, sidewalk chalk and get creative.
Get creative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's creativity even in planting something, right?
Yeah.
Like that is you making a conscious choice to decide what colors you want in your space or in your outdoor space, right? Like there's creativity literally in every aspect of you making a decision or a
Shyra's creativity is at Target.
My creativity is at Target. Interior decorating is my creativity. Shopping apparently is also part of my creativity.
You ready for card number 3?
Card number 3, let's see it.
All right, third and final. Ooh.
Oh, snap.
So, card number 40, the 6th chakra, or the third eye chakra, and it's Archangel Metatron.
Metatron, you old genius, you.
Well, I don't know about you, but the first thing I think of is intuition.
Yeah. When I look at Metatron, I immediately go to his cube. And I think of geometry, and I think of the complexities of life, and finding all the different points within the complexities of life to just kind of like bridge all the different elements of us together. Not to mention that this is another chakra card.
And this card, so it's another angel. It looks very masculine, and it is filled with white light, blue light, and purple light. The angel wings, like he doesn't actually have a physical body.
He's got a light body.
Yeah. The only physical features are around his face, and then the upper parts of, it almost looks like really intricate butterfly wings. He's got long hair, and he does have something on the third eye.
He's just made up a lot of little sparkles.
Okay, so I'm going to share something. I'm going to be honest. I just Google searched 6th chakra, and the first thing that comes up is emotional body.
Oh my gosh.
Associated with mystical visions, clairvoyance, the ability to observe chakras and auras, precognition, and out-of-body experiences. It is where we develop an impersonal mind and detach from the physical and mental illusions.
Wow.
Well, so what that's saying is the physical and the mental, in this regard, like there are illusions. So needing to actually lean into this third eye chakra, this intuitive side, like receive information that way as well to help with your discernment.
And just think about all of the judgment you place on your physical attributes and how that can play a part in the illusions that she was just referring to. Like, oh, Ooh, this card is juicy. See, I'm telling you, Metatron, man, you got it.
What's funny is this card popped out twice, and I thought it was me, and I kept putting it back in. And so to see this come up a third time,
oh, it was like, oh, we're talking about this. This is what this is all about. And this is a number 40 card. Little gold banner at the top of the card. And let's see what the number 40 has in this handy dandy guide. Keep up the great work, the hard work you have been toiling at, lifetime after lifetime. Oh, lifetime connections has brought you to where you are today, living and serving your divine life purpose and soul mission. Passion, confidence, enthusiasm, surrounding yourself with love. Self-love.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
In the guidebook, it's time to break out of the old toxic thought patterns, whether they be habits of worry, doubt, or self-criticism. Develop a clear, healthier vision of how you perceive yourself and what you want your daily life to look like. Know that you are in charge of making it so. You are the creator of your reality.
Yeah. And if you've listened to our prior episode, we are in a time where the energies are very, very strong. I was going to say thick. That's weird. But like they're coming in hot. You know what I'm saying? So manifestation, that's very powerful at this moment.
I think our collective awareness of our personal power is starting to increase.
Absolutely.
And I think that's adding to the energies of manifestation.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely it is. And this is just a great time to be creative. It's a great time to start doing that self-reflection and seeing what it is that brings you the joy, the happiness. What is it that is no longer serving you? And how can you find that love within yourself and expand it to others?
And how can you provide that self-love for your emotional body?
Absolutely. Oh, that's a great way to end this episode.
We hope that you are enjoying this series. We have one more episode to go, the spiritual body. So this is episode 4 out of 5 total, because we started with the general.
What does self-love mean to you? And of course, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, stay notified of all future episodes and content that we create.
And share us with your friends.
Share us with your friends. We also have social media. So if you like more of that short form content that we have, you can follow us at Love Always Self. That's on Instagram and of course, YouTube. And we have a website, lovealwaysself.com. I think I covered it all.
And on that note, we really hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We love you so much. And don't forget to carry that love forward. And love first.
Love last.
And love always. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
You got the finger right.
I did. I got to the right camera.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
Love last.
and love always.